Okay, this is the audio lecture for Chapter 5. Very briefly, I want to talk a little bit about what you can expect when reading Chapter 5. Chapter 5 deals with information technology and public health. So when we mention the word public health, basically we're talking about any information that deals with the health of an entire community. A lot of times when you hear public health, you may also hear terms such as pandemic or epidemic or endemic or outbreak. When you hear those type of words, they're referring to anything that's dealing with public health. Believe it or not, public health really can help save more lives than medicine. How is that possible? Because when you understand the purpose of public health, when you educate yourself and you help to educate others, a lot of times you can prevent a lot of diseases and conditions just by being able to educate yourself. When you understand what epidemiology about, which is basically the study of diseases and populations, and it comes from collecting data and analyzing statistical data. When you understand what that really truly means, it's like it serves as a gateway to public health, because what it helps to do is epidemiology is all about providing cleaner, healthier environments for you and I to live in. So when I talk about cleaner, healthier environments, you know, the water that we the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the climate in which we exist in, sanitation areas, making sure that areas are clean and safe for individuals to be in. Because you got to think about, when you talk about environments and crowds and gatherings and groups of people, you know, what one share, all may share. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, if I shake your hand, you got a cold, and then you shake someone else's hand, and then they shake someone, we're just passing. No one has taken the time to wash their hands or, you know, sanitize their hand. We're just coughing and shaking hands and hugging and, you know, and all those kind of things. And you have to take that into consideration when you learn how to prevent germs, when you learn how to keep your hands washed, when you learn how to cover your mouth properly, when you learn how to wear a mask if you need to, or you learn how to sanitize, or you learn how to use antibacterial foaming soap and stuff. When you learn how to do those things, you help take steps to a better health, so that you can become a better you, so that we can become a better community, and in turn we can become a much better population. When we deal with the field of public health, it's very broad, but it basically includes how we care for the environment, water, earth, and air. Okay, the field of public health also has to do with tobacco, and if you know, tobacco is like one of the leading causes of things in which it causes the environment to become polluted. Because when you're smoking any type of tobacco, you're looking at something that's dealing with, just think about the fumes, smoke in the air. Public health also has to do with natural and human disasters that we may encounter depending on what climate is like. Public health also includes protecting food supply, how we identify and prevent, or how we identify and prevent contamination of different diseases. You know, making sure that, as I stated before, the water that we drink is safe. Making sure that when we're with other individuals, not only are we practicing personal hygiene, but they practice personal hygiene, because when you don't practice personal hygiene, you know, you help to infiltrate the air that others breathe. Because just think about it. So let me just kind of be transparent. So let's say, for instance, I hadn't bathed in 3 months. So of course I have an odor under my arm. Well, you know, if I come within a crowd of people, because I already have a body odor that is traveling with me, you know, I release those fumes into the nostrils of someone else's nose. And then they have to, you know, inhale that. And a lot of times you have individuals they can't do odors. You know, like odors really make them sick on the stomach, or odors make them gag, or odors make them nausea. Just like with smoking. A lot of individuals, they don't do well with any type of smoke. Just think about your patients or people around you, or individuals that have asthma issues. They're already struggling with breathing problems, so guess what? They don't need to inhale anything outside of the normal air that we just breathe. That's why the normal air that we just breathe every day should be clean air. We shouldn't be in a polluted area, because a polluted area can cause a lot of different conditions to come upon people who were at one time were like healthy individuals. So I just kind of put a poster in here. It was just just a little something for humor. Use the handkerchief and do your bit to protect me. So basically, this was just like a poster back from 1918 when the flu was on the rise. And now we have vaccinations. We have things to help us with preventing the spreading of flu and other issues that are airborne. Tuberculosis, now you can take the TB skin test. You can go and get chest x-rays. You can go and get yourself diagnosed and treated before it becomes, at its worst point. Social inequality and health. Social inequality is one determinant of health. And when we talk about social inequality, we're talking about the health of a whole community, even the whole world, not only just the medical treatment of individuals. Because social inequality and absolute poverty are important determinants, the field of public health goes far beyond what we're talking about in this textbook. Okay, so for an example, a poor country that has a more equal distribution of wealth and income can actually become a healthier population than a rich country with an unequal distribution of wealth. Okay, so I could be in a poor country, but if there's equal amount of wealthy people there, there's a possibility there's enough wealth to go around to help make our population better, versus if I was a rich country but I didn't have an equal distribution of the wealth, even though I'm a rich country, then I stand the chance of becoming a more poor country. Okay? Now, let's look at some of, basically, let me just say this. The next few slides that you look at are some statistics. Now, these are not like the most updated statistics. These are the ones dated back to like maybe 2007-9. So they're not the most up to date. You would want to research online to get the most up to date information as far as where we're at with the status on, like how much we're spending in healthcare in relations to tobacco users, unpolluted areas, TB patients. If you want to get more statistics on where we're at poverty-wise, and in what areas and what percentage, what percentage of the population makes that up. So I'm just going to kind of go through these slides. I just kind of put them in here for you to just kind of take a look at it. So see, like back in 2008, there were at least 39.8 million people in poverty. Okay, in 2009, it was 43.6. I'm not sure what those stats are as of today. Okay, so one of the things that CDC, who is the Centers for Disease Control, now they play a big part in public health. CDC provides a lot of information for us. They're very educational sites. They have statistical reports. They deal with restaurant scores. They deal with different areas in cities, and they deal with all of the areas basically. Let's just say for the state of Alabama, You can pretty much go on the Centers for Disease Control, Alabama State Department of Health, and you can just about find out anything that you need to know about the city and the county that you stay in. You know, what's the population? You know, is the water safe? What's the ratio as far as male, female, the different races that's occurring there? If you wanted to just go on CDC and find out, you know, where are the highest rates of STDs, and, you know, look at the pregnancy rates or the abortion rates. You just have so much information. They provide so much information out there, so they do play a very, very significant part in how we gather or how we get a lot of our information that we see. So when we look at how computers play a part in public health, one of the ways that computers play a significant part in public health is computers help us to gather data. Okay? They help us to gather data so that we know the necessary steps that need to be taken in order for us to make progress or improve the things that we need to improve on. Public health informatics is a part of technology that supports the public health department by way of research. Okay? And it's used by information technology. So in other words, just think if you had to do a comparison of Jefferson County to Clay County or Claiborne County or, you know, Lamar County. Just think if you had to do a comparison on those different counties for whatever it is you're researching. It is so much easier to be able to have a computer to do that. There's no way you want to get in your car, you driving, and you gathering all your information with paper and pen. No, it's so much easier to be able to have the use of information technology in order to get the information that you need. Now, as I stated before, when you're gathering information, getting statistics, and analyzing the data, we call that epidemiology, okay? And basically what you're doing, you're studying diseases. And computers, again, help with that because you can actually collect worldwide data along with community data and national data. So, IT, information technology, they play a very important role, and it's called infection control. So what they do, they monitor areas, they monitor diseases, they do surveillances, they report when there's a spread of a disease, and you've seen it. You hear how, you go buy some meat, it's contaminated. And you'll see all kinds of bulletins about it, all types of information about it. You go on the computer, find out anything you need to know. They can tell you where it started, who's manufactured it, how many recalls it's been. In order to be able to do that, you need computers to be able to help you with that process. Okay? So let's kind of look at some of the ways where public health helps us in today's society. Okay? Now, one of the ways that public health helps us is public health helps us to become educated. Okay? Helps us to become educated. We all have heard that MRSA, which is, we know it as staph. It's one of the most resistant organisms that exist. It's very hard to treat. And that's why anytime MRSA is positive within a patient, that's why that patient is isolated. That's why those individuals have to be on lots and lots and lots and lots of antibiotics, medicines, because it's really hard to treat, especially when it gets off into the bloodstream. The way we would learn about staph or MRSA is by way of researching it on the computer. So just think if you had to go and find written material and you didn't have access to a computer. You could only imagine what that would be like. IT helps us with educating us on vector-borne diseases such as malaria, yellow fever. You can go out there and research. If you didn't know what a vector-borne disease was or a vector-borne animal was, you can go out there and actually research it on the internet so that you will know exactly what it is, how it looks, what happens if you get bit, how do you treat it. We couldn't do that without the use of computers. So that in itself should basically let you know, having computers is truly, truly important. Now, the ONCHIT, this is the Office of the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology. What role do they play in public health? Okay, so basically their job proposes the following. They basically are used to help with surveillance systems to safeguard against epidemics and unsafe foods. That's basically what their job is. Their job is to make sure that we have the necessary equipment, we have the necessary information in order to be able to gather data, read statistics, analyze statistics, and let the public, the population know what's going on, and also what's being done, what is being done to help with whatever the issue is. Is it unsafe water? Is it pollution? No matter what it is, it's used to help combat a lot of that. You also have the NEDSS, and basically that's the National Surveillance System. Some software tools that are used within the Information Technology Department to help with research. MIDAS is one. And then you have the WHONet. The WHONet is more in relations to anything dealing with the microbiology department. And of course, that's the study of microbes, diseases. That's what that particular department deals with. Some other things that relates to public health: global warming or climate changes. We have to monitor these kind of things. Why do I say that? Well, you monitor these things because these things let you know or alert you when there's something going on with carbon dioxide in the air. Something's going on with the atmosphere. We have a heat index. We have a cold front. You have to know, because that way you know how to prepare for hot weather, and when we're transitioning to cold weather, and when we're transitioning to fall weather, or we got an earthquake, or we got a tornado, or we have a hurricane. You need to be able to track these kind of things going on, and a lot of that is by way of computer technology. Computer technology now is so far advanced than what we are accustomed to. So when we talk about, let's get over here, we can kind of talk about the effects that global warming has. So the more intense heat we have, the more heat-related deaths. What do I mean by that? When we start peaking up in the 90s, 95s, that's when you start having more heat-related deaths. Heat strokes. You hear people talk about heat strokes. Usually asthma patients tend to have an issue with breathing problems when it's too hot. Then children some children start suffering with eczema, which is the skin rashing, the rashes on the skin and stuff when it begins to be too hot. So you have to have some way of monitoring these type of changes, because they do have an effect on the population. The more intense storms you have, the more flooding you have. Rivers begin to overflow. The more increased population pollution you have, then you can start having droughts. You can start having forest fires. This is when it starts getting too hot. When it gets too hot, your people that farm, they start having destruction in crops. And then, believe it or not, some of our wildlife habitats start dying off the scene, due to the heat index and the intensity of the heat. I don't know if you all remember years ago, a few years back, when we had Hurricane Katrina come through. Hurricane Katrina flooded New Orleans because it was a monster hurricane. And because the levees failed and wasn't able to uphold, it wasn't able to prevent the flooding from happening. A lot of lives were lost. A lot of things were lost. A lot of homes were destroyed. A lot of businesses were destroyed. Churches were, destructed. It was a lot. Even though we had technology to be able to track what was going on with Hurricane Katrina, the levees just didn't have the necessary equipment to be able to stand against that particular storm. And it was a really devastating storm. But in the midst of that brings me, how did we know how devastated were? Computers were used. There were computers used to monitor the hurricane, and it could monitor its path, the effects. That's how they were able to tell individuals, okay, well, if you're in this area, take shelter. If you live in this area, evacuate your home. It's coming this way. It's over here. It's gone from a 3 to a 5, or a 5 to a 4, or it's intense, or it's out here in the Gulf, or it's here. All of that is done by way of using models within computer and information technology. One way that they could have, or one thing that they learned from that, was making sure that they have pretty much a much more adequate public health plan, such as, evacuation plans, designating shelters, and making sure those shelters have adequate food, clean water, medication, vaccinations, plans to help people get to shelters if they're trapped and can't drive, plans to help with cleanup, plans to help rebuild the city. Whenever you have a hurricane or a tornado or anything like that to come through, you always got to make sure you have a plan of some sort, because that hurricane by itself, with the lives that it took, and a lot of people just left the area and never returned, that was really a huge decrease in population for them. You have some people, when they experience something so devastating, they usually don't want to go back. Then I put a couple of pictures in here just to count, so you can kind of see the destruction that this particular hurricane caused. If you remember, after that, we had the BP, Deepwater oil spill. Okay, I don't know if you remember that. It was where the oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, killing like 11 people, and it really polluted, damaged the Gulf, killing a lot of the wildlife. Okay, how were we able to track that? We were able to track that by way of computers. Computers were able to go out there and track and to see what was going on actually out there in the Gulf. You've also heard of earthquakes, tsunamis. These are especially like the last big one that happened in Japan. Okay, earthquakes. You hear about those quite frequently. Those are tracked by using computer modules to actually track tsunamis in real time, so that they can make populations, individuals aware of what needs to go on, when to take shelter. They can be really bad. Earthquakes and tsunamis can be really, really bad. Usually when something like that happens, usually when those things occur, you usually end up with contaminated drinking water. A lot of the farms become contaminated as well. So basically, in summary, you can see pretty much just from the few things I mentioned in here in this particular lecture, you can just kind of see how how rough it would be if we just didn't have computers in public health to help us with monitor a lot of these things that we need to monitor. So, computers are very, very important in public health, again, because it's all about protecting the health of the entire population. Okay, well, just remember, this is going to end the lecture for Chapter 5. As always, remember that this will be uploaded in the student portal for you, as well as the actual PowerPoint slides for Chapter 5 are located in DocSharing for your review later. And always remember to go back and read through your chapter. Thank you.